This clip from the SVLG Cities Matter Summit is brought to you by Google.
Nuria, good morning. It's great to see you, and thank you so much for those insightful remarks.
It's great to see you too, Ahmad. I feel like I was sitting right next to you, virtually.
Well, yeah, welcome home to Silicon Valley. And I just have to say right at the top how proud I am on a personal level to see you in this leadership role in DC at this very important time as we talk about infrastructure, equity, so many important issues facing our communities. Thank you for your service, Nuria.
Thank you.
Well, let me dive in here with some follow-ups. First, maybe at a macro level, talking about FTA and what you're doing in terms of work to improve transportation systems for businesses, workers, and most importantly, our communities here in Silicon Valley. I'd love to hear about that at that macro level, and then we can further delve into some of the equity-specific questions.
Yes, well, I like talking about transit, and certainly in this new role, I have the opportunity to not only focus on the funding that we do, but also the plans and the policies that are so important as they will significantly leave an imprint in transforming the way that communities connect people to opportunities and the way that people move. And providing public transit is such an integral part of the development of not only the individual, but also the benefits that that individual can then bring back into their own communities. At the national level, I get to see what is happening in rural areas and what the needs are. And I also get to see the mid-urban and the urban centers. And even in urban centers, there are transit deserts. So I am really looking forward to working with my colleagues at the US Department of Transportation and my fantastic team at the Federal Transit Administration to find ways that we can provide plans and guidance, and of course through the funding, whether it's through the annual appropriations or through the additional relief funds that have been made available, for ways to start thinking about how we start closing and building a stronger network of transportation services.
Well, we heard from Secretary Buttigieg, we heard from you in your remarks. I loved what you said about lifting up communities and the fact that when we talk about equity, it's not only the right thing to do, but it's good for business, it's good for our economy. There's a bottom line here that's very relevant and accretive. And I want to double click on that a little bit, talking maybe specifically about equity and how you view this opportunity, what you're doing to address equity via transportation infrastructure. Maybe if you could just speak to that in a little more detail.
Of course. Well, I'm sure all of you agree that the recent federal investment in transportation and the plans for that are being discussed for investment in infrastructure is long overdue. So of course that investment is more than just about buying more buses or trains, but it's also by increasing support for riding the system. And by doing so, we're supporting people. And that means that we need to start identifying and closing gaps in transit deserts and helping everyone access jobs, schools, and services. Because by doing so, then we rebuild communities and we increase that economic growth and prosperity in those communities. There's some really great examples of federal investment helping drive projects right here in Northern California. Some of you, of course, in the San Francisco Bay Area are familiar with the Van Ness Bus Rapid Transit project in downtown. And the BRT line, which will run from Van Ness Station and Mission Street to Union Street, near Fisherman's Wharf, through 6 neighborhoods, passing City Hall. These are the kinds of examples how federal funding and local decision-making can support and advance equity. Because by making those connections available, we can move people from one part of the city to another. This also, exclusive lanes, which is what BRT is, down the median, what it does, it can provide a fast and efficient service along with traditional bus routes. in areas that are overcrowded, but are used by transit-dependent, low-income, minority, elderly, and the student populations. So it's really to help essential workers get the job faster, because it's what they do, right? We look to see how fast it is to drive our own vehicle if we have one versus using public transportation. And then those who don't have a choice are then subject to a longer commute. And we need to reverse that. We need to change that. We need to make that trip to be as convenient and as efficient and as fast and safe as if you were doing it yourself. At USDOT, we have supported the project that SFMTA is moving forward with 115 million, including 40 million out of the FTA capital investment grant. And as we all know, public transportation, and I say this time and time again, it is the greatest equalizer. It allows everyone to get where they need to go, regardless of whether you own a car, cannot drive, and it is especially critical in rural communities. Transit does something that's amazing. It provides access, right, and it lifts people up. And under the best of circumstances, lifts up entire communities. So our public transit partners play a big role in providing services, and whether it's in urban, suburban, or rural areas. And in the rural areas in particular, they have an important role in helping during the pandemic. So as we think about rural residents, and that includes farm workers, they also need access to critical services, especially during the pandemic. I just want to point out that down south from you in Monterey Salinas, they were able to transform 2 retired buses into mobile test sites, and they drove them into the Salinas Valley so that they could help farm workers get tested. So the agency at Monterey has also enabled Wi-Fi access to students. So this is how public transportation is not only part of the community, but becomes an intricate part of the community. And I like to share both sides of things, where you have the urban center that's thriving, and then you have the rural area that is so dependent on the people who have to continue that work in farming so that we can get those wonderful produce to all of our tables. I'm just going to go to another state and just tell you that in Montana, the city of Missoula set up all of their vaccination sites to be within a block of the Mountain Line Transit bus stop.
Wow.
And by doing this, and many transit agencies across the country have done this much, they have indicated on their transit maps where these vaccination sites are so that the healthcare providers can share that information with patients, and those who have apps will know exactly what bus routes would get them to these sites. And even better, many of them have offered rides for free. So as we see this type of movement across the country, and right here with great pride in the Bay Area, I can say that we're doing all the right things so we can touch all the right segments of our community and provide that support. That's what public transportation does.
It's incredible. It's incredible work. I appreciate the detailed answer. And I have to ask you, just as a follow-up, Nuria, does this feel different, this conversation? I hope the program we've put on, the questions you heard with Mayor Liccardo and the Secretary, many of our panelists, the focus that we're having around equity in the business community and what we can all do to be part of this solution. Does this moment feel different to you? And perhaps, that there's a real authentic point for change?
Absolutely. I think we have had these conversations. It feels like we've had these conversations at the kitchen table, and now we're having them outside the front door. Right. That's how it feels to me, that we have taken the step to be much more vocal about equity and to recognize that we have not always gotten it right in the past, but that we have an opportunity to fix that. And that's why the emphasis on equity and that overlay on the infrastructure plan and the solutions that that plan is going to bring. It's not just buying more and doing more. it's doing more and buying more, but doing it differently and better so that everyone can benefit from it. It's everything from environmental justice and how it has been applied to the transportation plans, designs, decisions. Those kinds of things are all on the table. You know, at FTA, we're reviewing areas like our Title VI guidance for transit providers so that we can ensure that we're delivering clear information focused on services that meet the needs of underserved communities.
Right.
The Title VI of the Civil Rights Act protects people from discrimination in federally supported programs, including our transit programs. And we have our staffs in the Office of Civil Rights who monitor our grantees' Title VI programs, ensuring that the large transit agencies conduct analysis on their rider patterns and that future needs are considered before making any major service changes. In addition to that, the American Jobs Plan speaks directly to equity. You know, there's a $20 billion initiative that's going to reconnect neighborhoods that are cut off by inequitable transportation investments. And that's going to ensure that new projects increase opportunity, that it advances racial equity and environmental justice, and that it promotes affordable access.
Right.
The plan also highlights the need to extend opportunities to small businesses, such as planning and design and construction of new transportation projects that are underway. So there's going to be a lot of exciting things that could happen as the dialogue continues around this plan.
It's very exciting. Let me throw in one last question for you. We've talked a lot about government and how government can be part of this solution with strategic investment. You know, my background in investment banking, infrastructure, finance. What about private capital? When we talk about ESG, environmental, social governance, that investment movement, where do you see private capital, ESG investors playing a role in driving the future of infrastructure in this country and here in Silicon Valley?
Yes, I do believe that there's a role for the private sector in multiple levels. One, a lot of the innovation that we are going to be seeing is innovation that's going to start with the private sector. And what the role of government, and particularly at the at the Department of Transportation, is going to bring those great minds to the table so that we can learn what is being considered, and we can determine which programs we currently have that can be used for innovation or as toolbox for opportunities so that a lot of the innovation can be made part of not only existing programs, but pilot programs that we have traditionally supported. I feel that there's just there's so many great things that are happening. And we've had at the Federal Transit Administration made some significant investments through new apps for route planning and mobile fare payment through our capital investment grants or through our pilot programs. We have something called the FTA's Accelerating Innovative Mobility, or the AIM program, which promotes forward-thinking approaches to improve financing and system design and service. And last year, we supported 25 projects to receive a share of about $14 million in funding through the AIM initiative. So in addition to the Integrated Mobility Innovation, the IMI, which also supports efficiency and promotes safety, FTA is at the table and ready to work with the innovators and ready to have the conversations with those who are looking to invest and help innovate public transit to make it better, more accessible, and bring it into the 21st century.
Well, thank you so much, Nuria. We're here at the table right with you. As you know, so many innovators, technology executives here in the audience who want to be supportive, along with so many elected leaders and friends of yours here listening to this wonderful conversation today. Thank you again, Nuria. We're here to support and be a resource wherever we can. Very much appreciate your service in DC.
Thank you so much, Ahmad. It's so great to see you, and what a great honor to be here. And I can't see everyone, but I know who all is on, and just to wish you all the very best We need your help, and your ideas are always welcome, and my door is always open.
Thank you.